The Statue of Liberty wasn't always green. When it was unveiled in 1886, it gleamed like a brand new penny because it's made of 80 tons of copper. That green patina you see now? That took 30 years to form. But here's what most people don't realize. That same metal has been teaching humanity how to build for the last 11,000 years. It was the first metal we ever shaped. It taught us how to work with bronze. It carried the first telegraph messages across continents. And right now, it's the single biggest bottleneck standing between us and an electric future. Every electric car needs 4 times more copper than a regular one. Every solar panel, every wind turbine, every charging station. Copper. And we're running out. I'm here at Object Origins, where we dig into the history of things and the geopolitics behind them. Today we're talking about copper, the metal that's been with us since the beginning, and the one we might not have enough of for what comes next. By the end of this, you'll understand why copper isn't just a historical curiosity. It's the thread connecting every major leap in human technology. And you'll see why the paradox of saving the planet might actually depend on digging more metal out of the ground than ever before. Around 9000 BC, somewhere in Anatolia, someone picked up a piece of native copper that occurs naturally in pure form, and realized it could be shaped. Not smelted, not refined, just hammered and worked. This wasn't bronze yet. This wasn't even intentional metallurgy. It was curiosity. But that moment changed everything. Copper became the first metal humans ever deliberately worked with. For thousands of years, it was the only metal that mattered. Then someone figured out that if you mixed copper with tin, you got something harder, stronger, more useful: bronze. And suddenly, around 3300 BC, entire civilizations reorganized around this discovery. The Bronze Age wasn't named after a place or a people. It was named after a material. Weapons became more effective. Tools became more reliable. Societies that controlled copper and tin became powerful. There's even a direct line from the metal to the island's name. Cyprus, the island that supplied Rome with copper for centuries, comes from the Latin word cuprum, copper. The island is literally named after the metal that made it valuable. The Romans understood something we sometimes forget. Copper wasn't just for weapons and tools. They used it for pipes, for roofs, for coins. They built infrastructure out of it. And when you walk through Roman ruins today, you still see copper fittings, copper fixtures, copper that's survived 2,000 years because the metal doesn't rot. It just changes color. Fast forward to the 1800s. Electricity is discovered, harnessed, weaponized, and suddenly, copper becomes irreplaceable. It's the second best conductor of electricity after silver, but silver is rare and expensive. Copper is abundant enough to actually use. The telegraph? Copper wires. The telephone? Copper wires. Every power line strung across a continent? Copper. The entire electrical infrastructure of the modern world is built on copper's conductivity. This is where the Statue of Liberty comes in. When Gustav Eiffel designed the internal iron framework and Frederick August Bartholdi chose the copper skin, they weren't just making a monument. They were making a statement about American industrial power. 80 tons of copper hammered into sheets, riveted together. It was the largest copper structure ever built at that time. And when it was first unveiled, it gleamed. Bright, shiny, the color of a new penny. The green patina everyone knows today? That took 3 decades to form as the copper oxidized. Most people think that's how it was always meant to look. It wasn't. The green is just what happens when you leave copper exposed to the elements long enough. Here's where it gets complicated. We're trying to move away from fossil fuels. Solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles, they're all part of the solution. But there's a problem nobody talks about enough. They all need copper. A lot of it. An electric vehicle contains roughly 4 times more copper than a traditional car. A single wind turbine needs several tons of copper in its generator and wiring. Solar panels are wired with copper. Charging stations are built with copper infrastructure. The paradox is this: to save the planet from the damage caused by digging up fossil fuels, we need to dig up more metal than we ever have before. And copper is the bottleneck. Estimates suggest we could face a significant copper deficit by 2030, not because we've run out, but because demand is outpacing supply. We're not mining it fast enough. We're not recycling it efficiently enough. And the infrastructure to do either one takes years to build. This isn't a reason to abandon green energy. It's a reason to take the copper shortage seriously. Because copper has always been the metal that enables the next leap forward. It was the first metal we learned to work with. It was the metal that made the electrical age possible. And it's the metal that will determine whether the electric age actually happens at the scale we need it to. So the next time you see the Statue of Liberty, whether in person or in a photo, remember that it wasn't always green. It started as bright copper, the color of possibility. And that same metal, that same element, is still teaching us how to build. The question now is whether we'll listen in time. If this gave you something to think about, subscribe. I go deep on the history and geopolitics of materials like this every week. Leave a like if this one hit different.